everyone, so in today's video I'm going to be sharing a speed paint that I just made yesterday of like a little pride thing of my two characters, Harrison and Lonan. So since it is Pride Month and I haven't been able to celebrate it at all because school stress, yesterday I had some free time, so I thought I would make a little piece for Pride of my two boys because I thought it might be cute. As you can probably tell, this drawing is not a front-facing portrait. It's like an actual pose between two characters and they're kind of like almost in profile, I guess, which the profile angle, like the pose, is pretty difficult for me to draw. It's kind of hard to get the same proportions that I'm used to, and if you haven't noticed from all of my other paintings and drawings on this channel, I primarily focus on the front-facing portrait, so just kind of like a character looking straight at the camera because I've never really challenged myself too much. So I decided to do something different and it worked out. So I used a couple different techniques for this, and I thought it worked pretty well and I wanted to share those with you. So the first one was to really stick by a reference, and I always use references when I'm drawing pretty much every single time, but I decided to stick really carefully to one and like take a really long time on my sketch. This whole piece actually took me 6.5 hours to complete, and I usually only spend like 3 hours on my paintings. So I think taking the extra time to sort of refine my sketch for this particular angle really helped since I wasn't super familiar with it. So yeah, that's what I first started doing. As you could see in the beginning when I was drawing Harrison, the references that I was using, I was trying to focus on them as closely as possible. I will admit I focused a little bit more on the reference for Harrison, a lot more than for Lonan. I was using Dan Stokes as my reference for Lonan, who's from the web series The Internet Explorers, and I really enjoy that. And I just noticed where I'd like pause the video that the profile was like perfect for a Lonan reference, which is why I used it. I didn't stick to using Dan as much as I did for whoever the model was for Harrison, because I was getting kind of impatient. I'm not very patient when it comes to art, and I get really antsy with just everything I do in my life, so I don't like spending too much time. Yeah, you could kind of see the difference. Personally, I like Harrison better. No offense to like Dan, I love Dan, but yeah, that was my fault because I didn't spend as much time on Harrison. So yeah, I stuck a lot to the reference, and then the second step that I did is I use tracing as a technique a lot in my art when it comes to just practice. So I think it's super important. I don't know your opinions on tracing, but to me I think it's a very great tool, and especially with digital, like you're given the digital medium, so if you have the capability to trace, I don't see why not, but I know some people have different stances on that, but especially for practice it's very important. And for somebody who finds it really difficult to branch out and start drawing different things, as you can see from like the 50 different front-facing portraits that I've done for the last 2 years, this was just a different technique that I decided to use. So I traced the angle like of my reference pictures, and then I switched from using like the actual photo to the traced drawing to reference while I was drawing the two characters, and I think it worked out really, really well. It was just so much easier to see the shapes and the lines, which is why it was really easy for me to like draw things I've had trouble drawing in the past. For example, like the eye in profile is really hard for me, but I did it really quickly when I could see the actual shapes from the traced drawing. So yeah, that's just my process, and now we can talk a bit about the drawing just for a bit. So it is a Pride drawing. I'm super excited, of my two guys, Harrison and Lonan. So these are characters from my books, and I've done drawings of them on here in the past, so you guys might know a little bit about them. Their relationship is kind of toxic, to be honest. I hope, like, I know in the future whenever like I write like my spin-off, which takes place in a couple of years, it does get better, which is great, but for now it's pretty toxic. And Harrison is like a romanticizer of people and tries to like think everybody's great and like no one is toxic, and Lonan's really toxic. He's like the worst. But this was kind of a moment that I wanted to capture, make it kind of happy, because especially Lonan isn't very comfortable with who he likes. He's not very comfortable with accepting that, hey, like, I don't just like women. He's not super comfortable with that as of yet. So I wanted to make him look a little bit happier, especially since he's with his bae. So that's a bit about the drawing. I personally really like Harrison. Harrison's my favorite. I know my sister likes Lonan, but Harrison's my favorite. I think he looks like a snack. Also, the reference was a lot closer to, Dan really looks like Lonan, but for some reason I think it's probably the way I traced it, because it doesn't even look 100% like Dan. He doesn't look exactly like Lonan, obviously, from the profile, but I just kind of looked out with the Harrison reference. For some reason, the way I traced that one, it ended up looking exactly like him, so I didn't really need to modify it too much. One last thing before I sign off, I had a dilemma with the cheek paint thing. I wanted to give Harrison like the rainbow stripes for the pride flag, like on his cheeks. And I did that. So I put it at the end because like I can't tell which one I like better. Everyone that I've asked says they like it without the paint better. I like the paint because it's like super gay. And like I live for that. But you know, you let me know like what you guys like better, if you guys like the rainbow stripes on his cheek or not. I like it both ways, so I included both of them. I'll probably print out both of them as big poster sizes and put them in my room because I love them. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching and for going through these brand new ramblings that I haven't done in a really long time. I will see you guys in the next video. Check out some of my other stuff. I'm sure one of them will be at the end. And that's basically all I have to say for now. See you in the next one. Bye.
I asked Saint Christopher to find your sister. She